And usually what we do is just do a quick check-in at the beginning, just to see how the first week went and how everything sat with you from what we learned last week. So if there's any thoughts to share just on listening and powerful questions or just anything about your week, real quick, we'll go around the room and share. Who would like to go first?
Hi, my name is Callan.
Hi, Callan.
Hi.
Is it Callan or Kellen?
Callan.
Okay. Nice to meet you. I'm gonna go ahead and rename you. It's
Okay.
It's Kellan, right?
Right. Yeah.
Okay. All right. Well, do you want to start with introducing yourself to the group? We have had 1 week so far, but.
Right. So I just signed up yesterday, and I wasn't able to log in. My password didn't work, and I've been on the phone with the woman, that takes these calls, and she wasn't able to get that sorted out. But she said that I should just let you know, and that you would just help me catch up a little bit.
Yeah, definitely. So you haven't been able to access the materials page or anything?
No.
Okay. So what I can do is I can send you the direct link to the YouTube video so you can watch that, just because I might not be able to fix it, and I'll contact the Zoom. Or it's not Zoom. It's on the back end. The password's not working, but I should be able to give you the PDF so you can follow along during class.
Okay, that would be awesome.
So I can send you the link, because I saw your. So I'll pull that up. But real quick, do you want to introduce yourself to the class? Just your name, what brought you to coaching?
Yeah. My name is Callan. I live in North Carolina. I've been interested in health coaching for a while. I am familiar actually with the Duke program, and a friend of mine completed that program, and so that gave me an opportunity to look through the materials, and I think there's quite a bit of similarity. But I'm really excited to do this program. It looks really comprehensive.
Awesome. Who is your friend?
Her name is Cynthia Fitzgerald. She lives here in North Carolina, and she became certified through Duke.
Okay, very cool. Yeah, I don't think she's been in one of my classes, but that's cool.
Okay.
Awesome. And then what we did in the first session is we share a metaphor. If we were a fruit or vegetable, what would you be? So is there something that comes to mind for you?
Wow. What would I be? I think I would have to say, an apple, because it's just so, it's a mainstay, and it's something that, we think of as healing and helpful to our bodies, and that's what I'm into, so that's what I have to choose.
Oh, very cool. And did you say what your current career is, or what field you're in?
I work from home by transcription.
Okay, so you're in the medical field.
Legal
field. Oh, okay. Okay. Very cool. All right. Well, so good to have you with us.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
And I'm Hannah, so I'm the trainer. Quick background: I just had a baby 3 weeks ago.
Oh, congratulations!
He's on a walk with Daddy.
Oh, that's wonderful.
And yeah, I've been coaching for several years now and training, and have my PCC with ICF, and just love coaching and love seeing people learn even more about coaching and grow as coaches. It's so exciting for me. So quick around the room, if you guys just want to say hi and introduce yourself to our new coach in class.
Hi, I'm JC. I'm in Maine. Nice to meet you.
Hello.
Hi, I'm Sarah. I'm in Austin, Texas. Nice to meet you.
You too.
Hey, Callan. I'm Robin. I'm in Richmond, Virginia. It's good to meet you.
You're my neighbor.
Yeah.
Sort of by state there.
I'm Mike from Colorado.
Hi.
Hi, I'm Kanika from Singapore.
Hello.
Awesome. All right. And then, Helen, did you get the link I sent you? Let me know if you can open it. It's right under chat here on Zoom, or I can if you can't open it from here, I'll email it to you.
Oh, I was checking there. Let's see.
All right. And then Mike, do you want to check in with how your week went?
Oh, sure. It was a good week. I spent 4 or 5 days, actually left last week the day after our class, and I was camping with my family up in northwestern Colorado. So I was up in the woods and trying to do very little as far as work. But I have spent a lot of time kind of digesting what we went through last week. I thought it was good. I paid particular attention to levels of listening as I was just interacting with people that I was around. You know, when you're camping, you tell a lot of stories and just spend time one-on-one and kind of hashing through time with old friends. And so I was trying to put myself in their perspective and imagine what it was like speaking to me and where they were coming from. So I think that's a real skill that's going to take development, but I'm excited to learn more about it. So back at it as of yesterday and glad to be here.
Awesome. Thanks, Mike. What about you, Robin?
Oh, let's see. I did all my homework. And no, it's been a good week. Yeah, I paid more attention to the listening thing, the listening end of things, and realized that I do need to focus on that a little bit more. And I've been reaching out, and I think I might have my practice coach, my practice counselee figured out. So that practice client, yes. So that I was kind of sweating that one, but that worked out okay. I think I'm good.
Oh, that's
so it's
awesome.
been a good week.
Awesome. Congrats. All right. What about you, Sarah?
I had a great week too. Kind of like Mike, I actually went to New Orleans for vacation last Thursday through Sunday. And it was a car trip with my best friend, and it was funny. I was practicing the listening and the car trip because we had about 8 to 10 hours together, and I was trying to be really quiet, you know, when my friend was talking. And after a long time, she was like, "You need a drink of water. I've just been talking too much." I was like, "Oh, I did a good job of like just being quiet and listening and letting her keep talking." And she had a lot to get out, so it's kind of neat to practice it in that setting where you're with someone for that long. Do it well. And then, funny enough, I talked to one of our owners of our business last Thursday before I left, and kind of told her what I was doing and this new certification, and she's a counselor. And she said she'd be happy to find me practice clients. So that was pretty exciting because I wasn't quite sure how that was going to work. So feeling good.
Congrats. So it's the new thing. If your client gets thirsty, you know that you're listening enough.
Yeah.
That can be a check-in. Are you thirsty? Yeah, that's really good, Sarah, because you want it to be the point where you're talking 20% of the time and they're talking 80% of the time. That's the goal in coaching. So
I think it worked out.
Thirst is the indicator. Great. Thanks, Sarah, and congrats on getting a practice client so soon.
Oh, thanks. Mm-hmm.
What about you, JC?
It was a good week. I started to tell a couple friends that I am doing the certification, and I got really awesome feedback. Everyone was really excited for me, and actually asked, I think everyone I told asked if I would be willing to coach them eventually. So I was really, really excited about that, and did a lot of kind of listening, and I realized that my go-to is always level 1. I definitely don't naturally fall into level 2, so that's something I'm really trying to focus on.
Oh, cool. Make sure you don't overbook yourself with practice clients. Like a couple at least, and then you can offer like introductory to other people or something like that.
I didn't say yes to anyone until I found out how good I am at this.
Yep. Don't overcommit yourself at first. So, Oh, cool. All right. And then let's see, Kanika.
Yeah, I had a pretty exciting week. After joining back from maternity, I was wanting to quit my job, so I finally resigned on Thursday or Friday. So now I have to start. I have 2 months notice period, so I have to start looking for a new job now. But things are exciting. I mean, if I get the job, very good. If I don't get a job, I get time to spend with my baby for a bit. So yeah, things are looking good. And other than that, level 1, level 2 is what I'm trying to practice. Of course, like everybody said, it take time. So yeah, it's exciting.
Very
A
excited.
happening week. Yes.
Sounds like you took a big step.
Yeah, I mean it was a long time too. So 3 years in one company is not me.
Yeah. Well, good for you. All right. Well, I'm excited to get into tonight's material. We're talking about designing the alliance. But first, Kellen, did you get the PDF?
I did, yes.
Okay. And so we're on chapter 2. Yeah, you should be able to scroll through, and yeah, feel free to let me know if you have any questions. You can either pop them in the chat, or I don't mind saying. But last time we just went over the basics of listening and the different levels of listening and asking simple, powerful, curious questions. So today, like I said, session 2, we're getting into designing the alliance, and this is a very, very important part of the coach-client relationship, because if you're not, you don't have an alliance design, you don't have it agreed of how you're going to work together, how do you know if it's going to be successful, and building that partnership. I really like how the word alliance actually comes from 2 Latin words, and it basically means like to bind together, and so it's basically 2 people binding together, coming together to work on something. So in the case of coaching, you're as a coach are binding together with your client to support them the best. So the design part is making the alliance really intentional. So designing the alliance is about asking your client directly what they want to address in terms of certain issues and how things come up with coaching. So for example, if they say, I don't know, what's the alliance you've designed around that? Or around accountability, how do they like to be held accountable? It's just basically that initial how we're going to work together that happens first. But designing the alliance happens along the way in the whole relationship too. So for example, if a client constantly says, I don't know, if they miss their action steps in between sessions and it's a consistent problem, if they're always late, or if they're working with another like service professional, so like if they're working with a personal trainer, or they're working with a nutritionist, or they're working with a counselor, it's very important that, okay, these are the issues you're working on with this person, and this is what we're focusing on. So it's very important that it's designed so that it's very intentional, so that they're getting what they need out of the coach-client relationship. So there's the first part. It happens at the beginning of the relationship where you design the alliance, and I'm going to model that for you guys with one of you, like how we're going to work together. But also be on the lookout for those design the alliance moments. If they say I don't know, that could happen 5 sessions in. So how are you going to handle the I don't knows? They just don't really seem to care, or like want to answer questions, or open to talk. There's in those indicators that, hey, let's take a step back and let's figure out how we can best work together, because I want to make sure you're getting what you need, is kind of the idea here. Or they start, I started working with a personal trainer. Okay, so maybe we need to take a look at what we're focusing on, because maybe they need more coaching around accountability, but they have, like with their food plan, maybe they have exercise taken care of, and so they don't want to be coached around that. Or maybe they do, but it's very important to address that. So there's the designing the alliance that happens in the beginning, but that happens in the middle of sessions. And it's very important not to focus on, you're late all the time. You wouldn't say that. It's more of like taking that step back and looking at the big picture perspective. Like, okay, so what do you want your relationship with accountability to be? I've noticed this. What do you want, or how do you want me to hold you accountable? Do you want, just me to be just a little bit curious around why you didn't do something, or do you want me to put you on the spot? It's very important to just know how someone likes to be coached. And I think it's important too, because not everyone, people that have never been coached don't know how they like to be coached, right? Someone that in that new situation, it's good to check in. How's that going? How are things going for you? Is there anything that you'd like me to do differently as your coach? Is there anything you want me to keep doing that you really like? I've had some people, and I mean, every client can be different. I have some people that are like, oh, I love it when you're direct. Sometimes, okay, but other people are like, I really like it when you just help me realize something and I get the aha moment, but I don't want you to point it out. Everyone's different. So it happens continuously. And it's very important to just make sure that you're always on the same page with your client so that you can serve them best. And sometimes priorities change too. I've had clients where, I was working with a client that was working towards her degree, had a bunch of different priorities, and then everything shifted. And I could sense that it shifted, but I had to ask about it. She didn't tell me about it. It was just kind of like something's different. And it turned out that she had a new relationship and her focuses were different. And she was like, I'm focusing on not on school anymore and my job. It's about this relationship right now, and it was just kind of a sense when someone's not really as involved in the things that maybe you were coaching them around that, hey, let's take a step back. What do you need from me? How can I best partner with you now in this new season? All right. So that's kind of the idea around designing the alliance. That I'm actually I shared a PDF with everyone last week. Did you guys all receive that? And Kellen, I'll send it to you right now.
Okay.
This is a PDF that one of our other trainers put together. It's basically bullet points of designing the alliance in the initial session. Did anyone have thoughts or questions about that PDF? I'm going to pull it up and send it right now. Anyone have thoughts on it?
I think it's a great introductory meeting kind of thing. It just it explains it all out. You don't really forget. It's all right there.
Yeah, it's nice to have a script, just a little bit, when you're first getting started and not really sure how you want to structure it all out. It's nice. Mm-hmm.
Right. Yeah, and it's very, very important that this happens too, because if you were to skip this part and jump right in, they don't understand what is coaching. They don't understand, that you haven't gotten on the same page with what their goals are and what's important to them. And actually, I just played coach with Hayden, who designed this, the other trainer. And so I think we're going to put that up on YouTube as like a sample video of him walking me through this as the practice client. But I'll check and see if that's up and send that to you guys too, because it's him coaching me and me pretending like I don't know what coaching is. That was pretty funny, but it's really helpful because we wanted to give people like a visual, like this is how it works. This is how you would coach someone through it. All right. So has everyone seen that? Kellen, did you?
Yeah, I'm looking at it.
Okay. All right. So with this, it's, you would start the session like this. We're going to go over, designing the alliance of how we're going to work together. And then usually you get into like the wheel of life, which you guys will learn more about, but it's basically like an intake of where they're at in all the different areas of their life. So it's more of an exploratory, let's see where you're at and what goals you have for coaching. Also, a lot of times we also use the wellness wheel, which we'll get into in later sessions too. But I've had a lot of coaches in wellness use both, or do one and then just another one for homework. Because in this first session, it's here's all the areas of your life, but then here's particularly the area of like health and wellness and all the different categories. So that's something you'll probably incorporate and get for. but don't try and do it all in the first session. It's important to, walk them through it and then let them like just fill in the areas and rate them, and then take time to explore it later. Because otherwise, Hayden and I spent a good half hour just designing the alliance. So you want to allow time to really set a good foundation and then start exploring. But it's okay if the initial agenda is we're just going to get to know each other and make sure that, we're going to work the best we can together towards your goals, and then we're going to explore some of your goals and where you're at in life. And then that builds you off into a really good relationship, and then you have a good foundation of an intake of where they're at and what their goals are. Any questions so far? Okay. All right. So who would like to be the practice client? I'm going to walk you guys through this.
I'll go.
Oh, Mike, you got it. Go for it.
Okay. Well, thank you, Mike. So we're going to, if you want to follow along, you can. But thank you for volunteering to be the practice client. Right? How are you feeling about tonight's material?
Tonight's material?
Mm-hmm.
Curious, interested, anxious, hungry. This whole program makes me want to get started, and so I feel like I'm wanting to get closer to that point.
What would it be like for you to be at that point?
Well, I'd be practicing this new craft. I'd be working with the people that I'm planning to work with. I'd be helping them through the challenges that they face, and also kind of pursuing what I see at this point as kind of my renewed life purpose. So when you look for a long time for something like that and you finally identify it, then you want to be there.
Oh, that's so exciting. I can't wait for, we're going to get into an exercise several weeks down the road. It's called Future Self. You're going to love that, Mike, that exercise. Okay. It's going to be great. All right. Well, thank you again. And as we get into tonight, we're designing the alliance. So that's basically, we're going to, probably mix it up a little bit. So you're not just the client. You'll probably also be the coach trainee. So as we design the alliance, I invite you to make your requests to me as your coach, but also your coach trainer. So just so you know that we'll kind of do it a little different. So it's two different here. Sure. So Mike, have you ever worked with the coach before?
No, I haven't. I was thinking through that today. I can't say that I have. I was trying to think if anybody was kind of functioning in a similar role, but not in terms of coaching.
Okay. How would you describe coaching?
How would I describe coaching?
Mm-hmm.
Well, as a pretend client or as a trainee in this program, I didn't really know much about. If you'd asked me that a month ago, I would have said motivator. I would have said mentor. Someone who's experienced in whatever disciplines you're interested in learning more about, who can guide you along the path to becoming more knowledgeable, more skilled in those disciplines.
Mm-hmm. What's your
having learned more now, though, what's that?
Oh, I was just going to ask now. Go ahead.
Oh, and now, yeah, much more about motivation and goal setting than about leadership. Not really diagnosing, not really prescribing, just allowing the client to explore and articulate their own goals, and then creating tools for reaching those goals, putting the power in the chair of the client, rather than in my chair. And I think that's a real important distinction, and it's quite different from my role as a consultant for a long, long time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's a professional definition I'm going to share with you in a second, but I want to share something really simple because it's something I really like. Is the old like British word for coach was a bus. So a bus basically helps you get to where you want to go, and so think of coach. A coach helps you get to where you want to go, but the client is driving, right? So that was something that's kind of clever, but
That's good.
helps you get you to where you want to go. The professional definition is that, but the ICF defines coaching as partnering with the client in a thought-provoking and creative process that inspires them to maximize their personal and professional potential. And something that I just recently, the word maximize, I've had it used as not maximize their personal and professional potential, but it's almost like tap into their unlimited potential, because it's, Mike, I'm coming in as this coach and with this whole class believing that you guys don't have a max. Oh, you've made it. That's it. There's so much potential that it's unlimited. There's no limits to it. And so I thought that was a really cool, so even though the ICF says maximize, I'm coming in with this idea that you have unlimited potential, and I'm here to partner with you in this process to help you not just reach your potential, but tap into that unlimited potential.
Mm-hmm.
All right. And then I want to distinguish for you, because you started describing some other professions. So I just want to describe how it's distinct. So for like therapy or counseling, I always picture, okay, someone's in a hole. They're going through something. So they need healing from pain or dysfunction or conflict. They're in something. They're in the midst of it. So I have this idea like, oh, they're in a hole and they need someone to climb in there with them and work through it with them. So it's very much focused on healing. Coaching, on the other hand, is they may be close to like something that just happened, close to the hole, but they're outside of it. And they're like, okay, I want to climb my mountain. Like, I'm ready to climb the mountain. I'm not in something. And so they might still learn from their past, but they don't need healing, because coaching sees the client as complete and whole, not broken. So that's kind of the idea, is that coaching is, you're whole. It's future focused. It's not focused on the past, whereas, counseling or therapy would be focused on getting healing from the past. Coaching is, let's focus on the future. There might be still hard things, but the client is whole and they're not broken. Consulting is basically a consultant, they have expertise, and then they're, helping generate solutions and fix diagnose a problem, and sometimes like help implement a solution. Coaching is, that I believe that, an individual or team is capable of generating their own solutions. They don't need an expert. They are the expert on their life and their situation. A mentor is someone who is an expert and gives wisdom and guidance based on their experience. In coaching, the client is always the expert. So mentoring can sometimes include advising, counseling, and coaching, but for the sake of the ICF definition, it's not a blend this time around. It's coaching. Pure coaching is the client is the expert. What do you think of those definitions, Mike? Any questions?
Yeah, I think they make total sense. Trying to formulate my question here. When you were talking a few minutes ago about designing the alliance and continuously checking in about how am I doing, how are you doing, how are we doing collectively, I'm curious about how and when that opens the door for guidance from a client in a direction that's inconsistent with my definition for what a coach should be, and how you manage through those kinds of, I guess you could call them disagreements, or when you're not on the same page, but you need to get back to the same page, to use an analogy that they actually used in the book. Does that make sense?
Yeah, so you're asking how you would handle that situation when you're not on the, how do you start the conversation to get back on the same page?
Yeah, I guess it comes down to we're all sitting here learning about the definition of a coach, and what they should do and what they shouldn't do. There will undoubtedly be instances when the client sees that differently. And how do you steer them back into a definition that we think is valid and accurate, while still maintaining that sense that they're the expert?
Well, there are some tools. Sometimes a client will ask for advice, right? What do you think I should do?
Mm-hmm.
And then that's not coaching, right? If you started giving advice,
Right.
But
Right.
if you can help them, before getting to anything else, kind of, well, what would it like be if you did know? Like if they say, I don't know what I should do and I want your advice, reverting it and asking, well, what do you think? What advice would you give yourself?
Mm-hmm.
And then there is a tool, I wouldn't say pull this out all the time, but brainstorming is really great because sometimes they just like to feel that they're partnering together, and that in that sense is where the coach actually helps the client generate some ideas. But it's all built off of where they initially start. So they get an idea and you help grow it and brainstorm with them. And so I've seen that, especially if they're asking for advice, reverting it back to what advice would you give yourself? But
right.
Then also there is brainstorming. But I honestly, I've had the conversation in between, they want to, they're going through something really hard and they need counseling.
Mm-hmm.
ICF code of ethics is, if we wouldn't handle that kind of situation. We would say, have you seen a counselor about that? Or, that's not something a road I can go down with you as a coach. Thank you for sharing that with me. I'm sorry that you're going through that. And then maybe check in, is it a good day for coaching? Because if they're not in that right space and they need to, see someone, they're not in that coaching space. So it's okay to reschedule.
Right.
Other times, so say a client comes to a conversation really heated and they're something's really bothered, or maybe it's gotten in a fight with someone. It may not mean that they need to go to counseling, but it's in the way of you actually coaching. There's something called venting where you say, okay, sounds like there's a lot going on. Let's just take 2 minutes and you just let it out and I'm just here to listen. And you don't coach through that. You just let them get it off their chest. That's another tool too, Mike. But I think it's okay to gently remind your client, hey, this is kind of going on a different path. I noticed you've been asking me for advice. Let's check back into what coaching is, and so we can make sure I'm supporting you the best that I can. Because sometimes there might be a little gap in the alliance if they revert back to always asking for advice, but they might just need another tool, paraphrasing. They might just need to hear back what they're saying and to, feel like, oh, I need to feel heard. Even if you are listening and asking good questions based on what you hear. So there's lots of different ways to handle this. And Mike, as you practice with a practice client and in class, you'll be able to see the different scenarios and every client.
Sure.
But it's always important to explain it thoroughly and ask if they have questions. And then, a part of the alliance is, so if you go out, if you ask me a question that's very, therapy, counseling, consulting, or mentoring, how do you want me to handle that? That's another great way too, because other people might want to be corrected in the moment, wait a second, or they might want more of a gentle approach. So that's another thing you can just design an alliance around, is how to redesign the alliance, to be honest. And it seems to work really well when you put this. Oh, what was that?
Oh, I just said good. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So I've already talked a little bit about what we're going to go over today, Mike. Designing the alliance, and then we're also going to decide if we're going to be a good fit working together as coach and client. So, just to give you a little bit more background about me as a coach, I have my PCC with the International Coach Federation, which is the professional certified coach. and I'm held to the highest guidelines and standards of professional coaching. Different than a credential, I also have several certifications. So general coaching certifications and some advanced ones as well. And so this is something that I love to do. I love to continue learning and growing myself. So I invite you to give me feedback as your coach, because I want to give you the most personalized experience possible. Do you have any questions about my background as a coach?
What did you do before coaching, and what brought you to coaching?
Oh, good question. I actually was a store manager, so I was running a business, and actually got introduced to coaching by my district manager because I was training and developing my team, but there were so many people that needed coaching, and so I actually fell in love with coaching. But then I also actually started with a coach myself, and it was just kind of confirmed, like, oh, I'm supposed to do this. So I've always been into working with people and seeing them grow and learn and develop, but I wanted to provide a service versus, oh, here's a product. I wanted to do something that was more lasting, and seeing people grow and learn and just reach their unlimited potential is just so exciting for me. And I got to experience it myself. So that was another really big selling point in coaching, was I got to see the benefits in my own life. All right. So we'll pause real second, Mike, on our session. So everyone, when you talk to a practice client, you tell them, you know, I'm currently being trained by Coach Training EDU, and our certification is all in line with the ICF. So you can say I'm currently pursuing my wellness coach certification with Coach Training EDU, who's accredited by the ICF. And actually, there's different levels of accreditation I won't get into, but ours is the highest level, which means like if you went for your credential with the ICF later and stayed with us for a couple programs, we're actually just able to listen to your coaching and verify you're to ICF standards, versus other people in different programs have to submit stuff to ICF and get it approved. So Coach Training EDU is, that's something that happened last year. Super exciting. So, and there's more information on the website on Coach Training EDU if you want to share that with someone, because sometimes clients want to see where you're getting trained and through who. So I would explain that. And then Mike, now we'll go back to our little session here. All right, so in line with the ICF's standards, we're also in line with their code of ethics. So that means that everything we talk about is confidential. And the only exception is if we're in training. So for example, our session right now is being recorded as a class, or if you have a client you're working with, you would explain to them it's only for training purposes, and you'd ask their permission to record so that we could go over the coaching. And the only other way that I would ever share anything is if there's potential harm to yourself or anyone else. Does that sound okay? Okay. All right. So with that said, I just want you to know that our coaching space is just a safe space that you can just be yourself. There's not going to be any judgment on my end, and I just invite you to not judge yourself as well, but just be, open to dreaming big, sharing whatever you want to, and be yourself. Do you have any questions about that?
How do I know that everything is confidential? Have we signed? This is a client and a trainee question. At this point, have we signed something together, a coaching agreement that talks about confidentiality, or how am I assured that in the training example that it doesn't show up in a presentation to a bunch of other trainees that I want to cut my ear off and give it to my girlfriend or something like that?
Right. So a lot of times you do a paperwork where you sign an agreement at the end. We haven't even decided we're working together yet. officially.
Okay. Okay.
So usually you
Okay.
do at the end. For me, like I'm saying, everything is confidential, and I'm held to standard by the ICF, and so I could lose my credential if I didn't. So that's basically that word of mouth right now. But usually you would sign an agreement and design something along with payment with your client. Usually when you're going through training, most people take you at your word. So it's not necessarily an official like coaching relationship, but I've had a lot of people, if you feel uneasy about it at all, and that extra measure of assurance for the practice client, I would definitely do some paperwork, and I can give you more information on how to, like, what should be on that and all on that agreement. But that's usually
fine.
Okay.
Can I ask a question?
Sure.
So would that kind of paperwork be included in the course material?
Yes. So under Build Your Life's Work, it's on the materials page. I know you don't have access just yet. There is a section in designing your business that describes that, but there's also some other resources I can send your guys' way too. But yeah, that's something that's included.
Okay. Thanks.
Okay. All right. Anything else, Mike, before we move on to designing the alliance together?
No, that's good.
Okay. All right. So we're going to design the alliance. So we're going to figure out how we can best work together to support your goals. And so how we can design our coach-client relationship so it's serving you and helping you get to where you want to go. So Mike, what is it that you want to get out of coaching?
Well, I feel like I'm coming to the end of some of this is true and some of it's not.
That's okay.
To the end of a 30-year career in marketing and consulting, and looking for, as many people do when they get into their 50s, kind of the second career. So ideally, I would like clarification around what I'm good at, what I will truly enjoy, as opposed to what I have to do to be productive, how I can really contribute to society, to the earth, in a way that's fulfilling for me as an individual. So.
Okay. So what I'm hearing is that you really want clarity on where you're going and what this new career for you will be, but you also want it to find the purpose, and so that it's fulfilling for you and you can make a difference.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. Thanks for sharing that. So where are you at currently in this process of rediscovery?
I'm at stage 8 of 100. So early along in the process, kind of coming down the curve in terms of the business that I've been running for the last 15 years, watching it kind of dissipate, allowing it to dissipate, and beginning this search, this new journey of learning around where my calling is next.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So this next part is a little bit different because you are also a client, but you're also a coach.
Right.
So
right.
What is it that you want to, or how does this program fit into that bigger goal of reinventing yourself in your career?
As a client or as a trainee?
I guess that one's more of a trainee, because as a client,
Okay.
I see what you wanted, but
yeah, as a trainee, I'm probably at 45 or 50 out of 100. I feel like I've spent the last year looking hard and thinking hard and doing a lot of talking and a lot of with friends and associates and a lot of meditating and things like that. And I really feel like it's brought me to this place where we all are today. And I'm putting a lot of emphasis and a lot of momentum into this program because I do feel like it's a calling. I feel like it's something that can fulfill those needs around purpose, contribution, joy, fulfillment, all those kinds of things. So.
Mm-hmm. How?
Did that answer your question?
Yeah, you did. You did. How committed are you to getting the most out of this program?
Oh, I'm as committed as anything, if not more, of anything that I've ever done. You know, my situation is maybe a little bit unique. I don't know. You know, and I'll just throw this out there, but 2.5 years ago, I had a very successful business with a lot of employees, and that was, let's say January 1, 2015, and in May of 2015, I underwent bypass surgery, very unexpected. Just came out of the blue. Course of 8 days, boom, 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 boom. I was in the hospital. Everything went really well, but after that, the business crashed. The employees went away, and so it was a lot of learning around identity and life purpose and things like that. And so this coaching channel, or whatever you want to call it, is a means for me to go back and work with people who have gone through heart events. Okay, so my whole business is designed around health and wellness coaches for people who have had heart attacks or heart surgery. So that's why I'm doing it. That's why I feel so strongly about it. I feel like I'm very uniquely positioned to work with people that are going through these things. And in terms of commitment, I couldn't be more committed, because I know what they're feeling and I know what they're going through. So that's why I'm here. Sorry to divert, but
no, thank you, Mike. I appreciate you sharing that. Not with me, but with the class. That and I just want to share. I'm excited for you. That's such a unique niche, and it's so cool how you took that experience and learned from it, and now you want to help other people going through that. That's just so exciting.
Thank you.
All right. Well, what requests do you have for me as your coach and as your coach trainer?
Again, we're going to blend client and trainee here, but as a client, I would say honesty. Don't hold back. Very, very thick-skinned. So I'm hoping that our relationship can be one that's not clouded by any kind of barriers or limitations. Trust is a huge part of that, in the sense that we're able to say whatever we feel needs to be said without judgment or repercussion. If I was working with you as a coach, I would ask you to draw on as many disciplines of learning and experience as you can, and to be really eager to delve into the unusual. I'm a big fan of atypical kinds of approaches, so I would encourage you to do that as well. And just act as a partner,
Okay. You mentioned not letting like barriers, and you mentioned like being very honest. Were you meaning that in terms of feedback and how I communicate with you, or what did you actually mean by that?
Yeah, feedback, conversation, dialogue. I don't. I've never been good at following rules, virtually my whole life, and so I wouldn't want. If we were on a path that's productive, I wouldn't want some rule or some guideline from a book to discourage you from pursuing that path. Feel free to, again, break into the unusual, break into the atypical a little bit.
Okay.
Following the guidelines of why we're here, but, and again, I'm bouncing back and forth between coach and client, but that's the way I would prefer to work, because I see everything that we're doing as a set of guidelines, but not a set of verbatim instructions.
Yeah, I couldn't agree with you more. Because it's something that we take, and we have a standard, but we're all unique as coaches. And so I know sometimes you'll get a guest trainer to get someone else training the same thing that I would, to get a different perspective and a different style. but I'm very on page with you. And something that I believe as a coach and a coach trainer, Mike, is that our life coaching style and it's the way that we life coach will flow out of your life story. So the way that we approach things, even though it's the same, because it's the same exercise, might look a little different for each coach and each because you might just approach things differently or see them a little bit differently. All right. Well, any other requests that you have for me as your coach or coach trainer?
No, I think that's good.
Yeah. Okay. Well, so far in our conversation, what's working for you as the client?
As a client, there's a little juggling act here. Well, I'm impressed with your credentials and your experience. I like what brought you to coaching. We haven't talked too much about my specific situation, but I know that'll come. So I feel like we've got a good dialogue. You know, you're a pleasant person. I feel like I can be honest with you. And so those are all green lights.
Awesome. Is there anything not working so far?
No, I would just say questions to be answered.
Mm-hmm. Yes, and I invite you to keep the dialogue going. If there's any questions about coaching or as the client, you know, I invite you. I personally enjoy feedback and always want to keep growing and learning myself. I'm by no means perfect. So if you're like, hey, I didn't quite like the way that you approached that question, that rubbed me the wrong way, I invite you to give me that feedback. And also as coach trainer, you know, I'd love your feedback too. Because I want to make sure that we're on the same page and that you're getting what you need, not only as the client, but out of this class as well.
Yeah, that raises an interesting question, Hannah. I see this coaching opportunity as being very much a journey for myself as well, a continuation of my journey in partnership with my clients. Is that something that you talk about, think about when you're working with clients, that it's a partnership, not just in the sense of reaching their goals, but that there are learnings for you and benefits for you as a coach that you apply to your life?
You know, honestly, I've never had a coaching session where I didn't learn something new as the coach.
Right.
And I feel like
sure.
Class, I learned something new, even though I've gone over these same concepts and taught the same class over and over again. It feels different every time, and there's always a different angle. So for me,
do you present that to your clients though?
Yeah, I mean, I always give them background on me, and sometimes they want to connect on a personal level, and so I separate that from coaching. But sometimes they do want to. It's important for clients to connect, and if that's something that's important to them, just to get on that personal level, we build that into designing the alliance. But you know, I feel like, you know, in the middle of sessions, you know, even pointing out if it's for the client's benefit, oh, I noticed this. Or sometimes you want to use it sparingly, like a personal story. But in your case, Mike, that's what makes you reputable to coach these clients, is because you've been through this. So that's something that you probably would have on your website, and they would want to know more about you, just like as you and I are talking about, you know, what brought you to coaching? Tell me about your life. You know, that's important. And in my experience, that clients feel more comfortable as a client when they know a little bit about me personally. But that's always something I design with them, and I don't really blend with coaching in the sense that I don't share like a personal story for my own benefit in the middle of coaching.
Gotcha.
But sometimes the client's like, you know, it would be really beneficial for them. Oh, I just want to tell you about the scenario where this happened, and they're okay with that, and it's sparingly, then it's going to be really, really powerful. But it's something that's kind of sparingly, and it's only for the client's benefit. Not, oh, I really want to share this. It's like, is it beneficial for them? Does that make sense?
Mm-hmm. It does. Yeah.
But you can't separate who you are personally and not be, you know, you, and have that. I feel like that personal relationship is very important. You know,
right.
A client wouldn't, you know, they wouldn't know, oh, why are you passionate about wellness coaching? Let's talk about you. That wouldn't work.
Right. Okay. Good.
All right. And then one last question for you. How will you know that our coaching time together has been successful?
Well, I would just relate that back to the goals we talked about earlier. When I have a clarified sense of what I'm supposed to do next, when I have identified an opportunity that I really feel at a gut level is going to be purposeful and beneficial and joyful and something that contributes to the world and the time that I have left here, then I will feel like this has been, not to put all of that on this, but I expect it to contribute to that, and then I'll know.
Awesome. All right. So what we would do next, Mike, is we would go into the Wheel of Life, and that's where we actually would clarify more of your big picture goals as well as goals for those individual areas. So it would be a time of exploring.
That's the same as the wellness wheel?
There's two different wheels. There's a Wheel of Life,
okay.
The different areas of life, like career, friendships, relationships. There is like a health area. So just imagine like health is then, and health and wellness becomes its own wheel. So there's two different wheels. So what I would do is you could just do the Wheel of Life and start the conversation and then give the wellness wheel for homework. But it's usually just getting a good picture of their big picture goals in this first initial session. And then we would start on like an area to work on. What's most important to you? Well, what's that first area that you'd like to just really explore? But this one, I would go back to what you started talking about, and we would like explore even deeper. So usually like a first, session, you'd have an hour. And so we just spent like about a half hour on designing the alliance and introduction. Then we maybe spend another half hour just exploring your goals and clarifying them and designing, actually what you want to achieve. And maybe we'd set time frames. It just depends on the client. But that's where we would go next in this initial session. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does.
Okay. All right. Well, Mike, now that you're back being the coach trainee, how did that go for you? How did that feel?
Good. Yeah, it's like Sarah said earlier, I think this is a great script. I like that it has a lot of content for the initial session, but I think there's a lot of pieces in here that you would come back to as well through continuous check-in, session after session. So I think there's a lot of legs to this.
Right. Yeah, and I wasn't like, I would, try to make it a comfortable like conversation. So it's good to practice, and just, okay, gotta talk about what coaching is. Make sure that they have the correct definition, the differences. And actually, I use the ICF. They have a frequently asked question page on their website, and so they actually put it like, what is professional coaching? How do you know if coaching is right for you? How is it different from other professions? And just talks more about like the process. So there's the link for you guys. I encourage you to check that out. Anyone else? Any questions or just anything that you noticed?
I have a question.
Sure.
What if they say that, yes, we have been through coaching before? So do we go through the entire process of definitions and differentiations? If they say that, yes, I have been through the process.
Yes, because there can be different kinds of coaches, and there could be people that say they're coaches, but they're not ICF accredited. But even if they are, it's important to know, what was that process like for you? How did it go? What did you guys work on together? Why did you stop? And then just check in. If they get the definition of coaching, then they know exactly what it is. I wouldn't say, you need to repeat it. If it's in line with the ICF definition, then you don't need it. Does that make sense?
Yes.
And it's actually it's always really helpful to explore, if they have worked with a coach before, because then they know what they like even more. And so the conversation might go faster because they know exactly what they need in a coach or what they don't want. Okay. Any other thoughts or questions about designing the alliance? I know we spent a good amount of time on it. Okay. All right. So I'm actually going to move you guys to breakout rooms now. So we're going to do a couple different things and practicing what we are learning today. So what we're going to do is first 10 minutes, I'm going to have each of you paired up and talking to another coach colleague about how you can best support each other through the program. So basically you're designing the alliance with each other of how you can best support each other in the program. So 5 minutes each, so 10 minutes total. And then we're going to talk about a session agenda and how that's kind of designing the alliance for each individual session, like how we're going to work together, what we're going to work on. And then you guys are going to go play that in your breakout room again. And then let's see. And then you'll actually just be able to take that agenda and spend the rest of the time coaching. So we'll go back and forth a little bit. And then you guys will be there for the remainder of the time. So the first 10 minutes now, I'm going to send you guys off. And I'll be available in breakout rooms because we have an even number. So just how they're doing in the program. What do they think? How can you best support each other is the topic. Any questions before we go?
Are we taking client coach positions on this, or are we just talking with each other about how to support each other through this program?
Yeah, this one is just as coach colleagues. So as
okay.
This one is. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and pause the recording. So Kellen, I know you haven't seen breakout rooms yet, so I'm actually pausing. All right. How'd that go?
Ooh, awesome.
Very well.
Very good.
Awesome. All right. So next part of what we're doing. So I mentioned that having the kind of the coaching agenda for each session is kind of the idea of designing the alliance for each individual session. So it's very important to have that set up in the beginning. So this next exercise is basically, and you guys are going to do it in your same pairs, is basically when you ask them what they want to talk about today, they might tell a story. They might not be like very straightforward. Oh, I want to focus on the area of my health. They might not be that narrowed down. It might be a story wrapped up in it. It might be, how we're feeling about it in the midst of that. So the idea of this is it's very important to get that clear what the client wants to accomplish in a session. So you, for example, you ask them what they want to talk about or what's on your mind today. In the wellness guide, let's see, I'm not sure what page is on. I think it's on page 22. There is actually a structure of like what happens when at each step in the coaching process. So let's see, it's chapter 1. Yeah, chapter 20 or page 28, chapter 1. It gives you like the steps of like what would be covered in a typical hour, like connecting, accountability. So setting a new agenda, establishing that is 3 to 5 minutes of the coaching session. So it's exploring what they want to receive from the coaching session. It's a statement and of a new understanding or action steps that the client wants to clarify during the present coaching session. So what they want to accomplish. So it's very important that not only is there an agenda, but there's a measure of success with the agenda. So it's like, hey guys, we're going to the grocery store, but what are we getting at the grocery store? What's the point? What are we aiming to get out of this? So same idea with agenda. You want to explore the area of your health, but you want to come out with one step that you can take to improve your health. That would be the measure of success. And then there's a lot more with agenda. And on the materials page, there's the coaching call assessment. It talks about, what it looks like to have an agenda that's, a 1 or 2 or 3 or 4. But basically, it's always from the client, and the coach helps explore the meaning an impact of the agenda before getting to it. So why that area? Why is that so important to you? What would be the impact if we talked about that today? Or what if you did have one thing you could do? How is that going to impact your week if you come away with that one thing that you're wanting to get? So it's with the measure of success, it's very important that it is measurable. It has to be some sort of number to it. One thing. And a lot of times if they're like, oh, I want to feel better about this area of my life. That's pretty hard to measure. Like, oh, are you feeling better? Okay. But if you could ask them, okay, on a scale from 1 to 10, how are you feeling about this area of your life? Or you go to the Wheel of Life and they rated health as a 2. Okay. I would like to figure out one thing I could do to raise that from a 2 to a 3 by the end of our time. Then it's a measure. Does that make sense? So that's a little bit about agenda. We'll get more into that soon as well, but there's more, like, take a look on page 28 if you haven't already, either after class. The idea is that the agenda, it might be wrapped up in a story. They might have to, there might be a lot going on. So our job as coaches is to help pull out, okay, this is exactly what you want to focus on and what's important to you that we talk about today. And then you have to make sure the client says yes. Yes, that's what I want to talk about today. Because you want to make sure that you're hearing them right and that they, okay, yes, that's what we're talking about, and there's an agreement. Because then if they go off tangent, oh, you said this was what you wanted to focus on. Does that make sense? Okay. So in our pairs, I'm just actually going to combine this with what we're doing next, because the next thing is to then take the agenda and just coach around it. So each of you, if you have an agenda, so it could be, oh, how can I get the most out of this coaching program? I want to explore how I can get the most out of the coaching program. Or if you have something else on your mind that you want to be coached around, that's whatever your agenda is. And then what we're going to do, so we have a good amount of time. So if we do, let's see, do the agenda yes. So basically they say the agenda and then you want them to say yes. That's what I want to talk about today. Then you can move on. Okay, great. Where do you want to start? And then you just start exploring. And I'll bounce around in rooms with you guys. So basically you can't move on until they say yes, that's what I want to talk about today with the agenda. And then you move into, okay, let's go into this area. So that's what we're going to do for the rest of our time, and then we're going to have a quick debrief at the end. Does anyone have any questions before we go back to breakout rooms? Okay. I'm going to pause the recording,